All right, and welcome to Fastbreak Breakfast NBA Podcast. My name is Keith Parrish, and I'm joined once again by my buddy through the miracle of the computer phone. I'm here with John Burr. John, how are you?
Despite feeling like I'm trapped in a very small submarine with Marcus Smart, I'm okay.
As far as deep sea submersibles go, apparently that was one of the more spacious ones you could find. As we've all become deep sea submersible experts.
Still looked like they were having
days.
to pee and poop in a Mountain Dew bottle, so I'm not sure if I buy this or not.
Yeah. Who would you rather be your GM? Any current NBA GM or James Cameron, who might be a savant at everything?
I need to figure out if I even want the current Grizzlies GM over what was that guy's name? Strother Martin, who ran that company that just had.
I don't know who ran the other company. Yeah, you're a little sore from some Grizzlies transactions. I mean, first of all, clearly, let us say our longtime listeners, our faithful listeners, know this. Maybe newer listeners don't know this. Marcus Smart is your least favorite NBA player
by a country mile.
Would we say of all time or just currently? You also, I remember, hated Paul Pierce a lot.
Geez, I don't even hate Paul Pierce as much as I hated Kevin Garnett. So that'll let you know this has been a torturous relationship with the Celtics, a team that I grew up.
Yeah.
That kind of ignited my fervor for basketball would have been the Celtics, watching old Celtics, specifically 80s Celtics highlight videos of them passing the ball and it being such a fun team with all the weird characters, you know, the Slippery Eel, Chief, Larry Bird, ML Carr on the waving the towel. So I really love the Celtics. And then they traded for two players I also loved, believe it or not, the Paul Pierce, Antoine Walker early days of 3-point shooting.
Well, they were fun.
Yeah, they were fun.
They were also harmless.
Yes, they were harmless.
Yeah.
And then they added like fake tough guy Kevin Garnett. Ubuntu happened. I found the Celtics like very odious for a while.
Yeah.
And now I really like all the Celtics players except for Marcus Smart, who was a guy I followed in college who I think is just like the worst flopper and dangerous, like kind of jerk player I've ever seen in the college ranks, next to probably Grayson Allen. And then it's just continued to be that way in the pros. Also with here's the thing, Grayson Allen's bad.
Yeah.
It's easier to get him out of your mind. Marcus Smart's very good.
Right.
Impactful player. And I actually think the trade, if you throw out the fact that we somehow had to pay 2 first rounds to help another team finish up a trade where they acquired an even better player.
When they were up against the deadline too.
Yeah, I feel like
the Grizzlies swooped in to save the trade. Yeah. That part felt weird at the moment, and still it's kind of like, wait, what?
I don't quite like the price, and everything the Grizzlies do with trades now gives me agita, just because of all the trades they've made recently have been poor in my eyes. Yeah. But Marcus Smart's probably just what the doctor ordered. He had his worst defensive year last year, but he's probably going to come in highly motivated after being basically he was chosen. Derek White with that haircut was chosen as the bachelor over him in Boston. A team is, moving on from him after 9 years, a team that he, by all accounts thought was his team. I think he's going to be very motivated. I'm not worried about the games Ja's missing at all. And
0.
I do think
that's how I feel.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be annoying about how enamored I am with the jawless Grizzlies for the first 25 games. When it's Payne Kennard and Marcus Smart, like that's gonna be fun.
I will say I was looking forward to like a team free of a Dylan-esque energy.
We got some energy.
Which we have the energy back, but I've always said here's my whole thing with Dillon Brooks. You don't want players like that on your team. Marcus Smart is exactly the type of player I feel like you do want on your team.
Yeah.
So
It's going to be a lot
I
for
think it's
me.
good,
And we're
he's
going to
good.
get, we got to go more national in a second. We got to get our breakfast. We don't want to get lightheaded talking too
check
much
out
basketball.
Grits and Grinds for more.
No, we can go. I know. I want to
to
know all about your Marcus Smart opinions, because you're a very passionate basketball fan with a lot of opinions about Marcus Smart. The cost of the price for the Grizzlies. I'm going to now equate this to trips to Disney World.
Yeah. Who are we going to draft anyways?
As long as you can ignore what it actually costs, great time. Just great time.
Yeah.
Magical place if you don't look at what everything costs. So that's now my review of the Marcus Smart trader. I'm like, hey man, I'm thrilled to have him instead of Tyus Jones, who's a great guy, but like this fit is better. Let's do breakfast.
Tyus is another one of those guys who he was such a great fill-in for us during the regular season, but then when you get to the playoffs, Marcus Smart even though has some pretty brutal last shots that he's taken over the years, also has some amazing steal the ball, get you an extra possession late in a game. Marcus Smart has at least as many amazing playoff plays as nightmare plays. And Tyus just kind of disappeared and I know the whole team disappeared, but he didn't seem to be on the same level as the other guys in the crucial playoff games.
Right. I mean, Marcus Smart has much more utility than Tyus Jones has, I think, for the postseason. Also, Marcus Smart nearly murdered Kevin Durant on a charge a couple years ago. And that's the angle I think this Grizzlies team could use in the playoffs. But let's do breakfast before we get to more of the NBA draft wrap up. We talk about the completion of the Bradley Beal trade. We have Chris Paul going to the Warriors. A lot of good stuff. But first, of course, John, what was your breakfast on this post-draft morning?
So the fast has been broken, and it was a direct it was Marcus Smart's fault. The night of the Marcus Smart thing, as you might imagine, I was besieged with a deluge of LOLs, LMAO at you type texts. And I immediately took thine to a 1 a.m. Taco Bell breaking up the fast. A Mexican pizza to console myself. I've been struggling with the intermittent fasting. I got 3 solid days of only eating within the 6-hour window, but this morning I knew we were going to talk about Mr. Smart, and I went and got myself a Magaz donut, which I guess I'm a cinnamon roll guy now, because I only got 1 donut because I just wasn't very hungry, and I was doing it more ceremoniously than anything. And cinnamon roll was the selection I made. I think I OD'd on blueberry.
Yeah, your blueberry cake feels betrayed. As you turned away.
Also, man, they've got new people over there working, and sometimes the donuts are too damn fresh.
You don't like a gooey donut, you said. That thing's got to settle. No, that blueberry cake feeling betrayed like Jordan Poole. The Warriors committed to him.
Am I a fool for thinking the Wizards did okay and that Jordan Poole is a good enough approximation of Bradley Beal that I'll probably take the Wizards over?
I mean, I can go back and forth on what the Wizards have done on all these things. Like now that we have the full litany of things they got for Bradley Beal, I'm like, that's fine. I mean, some of these pick swaps, like the 2028 30 pick swap, the 2026 pick swap even might be incredible, because the Suns
pretty awesome
are going to burn up in a couple of years. Like they're going to be done, I think. But also Jordan Poole, I think, stinks. And it's really funny to me that they're like, we can't pay Bradley Beal $45 million a year. What if we paid a much worse player $30 million per year? I mean, I know it's a smaller salary. You can move on to it. Also, it's hard to judge Jordan Poole's last season because, again, the man was physically assaulted at work. A 22-year-old employee was attacked by a 32-year-old senior employee, and management took the side of the attacker, and that might mess you up.
The offseason is completely torturous for me because outside of the Smart trade, the other trade rumor my friends are bombarding me with has been Draymond Green, who I also think would be a good fit for the Grizzlies.
Oh, of course you would. But I want to talk more about the Wizards, but my breakfast, I also cinnamon flavored. I didn't have much at the house, and I cracked open the child's snacks. I had some cinnamon flavored graham crackers, which I guess I'd forgotten kind of that entire essence of it. It gave me like childhood flashbacks, like summer. I don't know if that was like the summer camp or vacation Bible school snack but I don't think I'd had that flavor in a long time. And it was, I don't know, it's kind of a warm, fuzzy, pleasant memory and delicious, by the way. Highly recommend the cinnamon graham crackers. Anyways, I might have some cinnamon stuck in my throat right now.
Cinnamon is an allergy for many people, fatal allergy.
Yeah, from the Deadwood, the cinnamon on these peaches. Anyways, after our breakfasts, we usually go to our apologies. I don't think we have to apologize today, John. I think we can get right into it. I mean, maybe we can apologize for kind of making fun of the Wizards, although still, I have questions. You can't list, you can't say we traded for a Chris Paul for a first round pick. And then it'd be revealed that first round pick is a 2030 top 20 protected first round pick. That is essentially a fake first round pick. And you assume it's not rolling over.
For a guy who is reportedly being waived, I still consider it a win.
Well, so, all right, the entire rundown of what they got for Bradley Beal, which is a lot of things, but it's a lot of like kind of nothing-ish things. I don't know. They got Jordan Poole, like you say, who's young.
Sucks.
Not on a good salary, but reclamation and maybe you can do something with that. But of course, they just did that to pick up this extra asset in the 2030 top 20 protected pick. Man. They also, I believe, got that Patrick Baldwin guy who was a draft pick last year, replaces the Isaiah Todd draft bust spot on the team.
Did they draft another Wisconsin guy to replace him?
The first round swaps they got from the Suns, 2024, 2026, 2028, and 2030. So you would assume next year's useless because the Wizards are going to tank and be horrible. But again, those next three, 26 through 30 every other year, that could
2030, the Suns roster will be so ancient and decrepit from years of non-drafting.
Yeah. They also got 5 second-round picks from the Suns. They already traded one of them. They sent one of them to the Pacers.
See, I feel like we could have sent 5 second-round picks for Marcus Smart.
I mean, maybe. Were those like...
Let's start trading.
Who got traded? Like 3 people got traded for 5 second-round picks last year, and I've already forgotten all of them because we were making the Mirotic jokes.
We need to do like went for 12 days of Christmas. 5 second-round.
Yeah, because I believe that's what our podcast was titled, the 5 seconds violation.
Yeah.
But anyways, I don't know. I mean, that seems like enough for Bradley Beal, even if like you're gonna say, oh, we got 26-year-old Landry Shamet, which I saw someone do, which is a hilarious thing to list as a positive in a trade. You got a bad contract, Landry Shamet. You got a bad contract, Jordan Poole, who maybe is salvageable if he'll be in a warm and loving environment, as in just offensive only, 30-point, 25-point per game guy. So that trade in its totality, I think it's fine for the Wizards because you had to unload that contract, and they were motivated before the new league calendar started for the salary matching. For the Suns, I hate it even more. Like, I think the Suns are going to be kind of good this year, but like with a razor's edge of margin of error.
Where they have 4 players.
Yeah. Yeah. 4 players.
4 injury-prone players.
I mean, I don't think Ayton's injury prone. Devin Booker's not injury prone.
His feelings get hurt.
His feelings do get hurt. Maybe he
Devin
just
Booker
hated Monty Williams. And so now that trade is completed. It seems fine.
When I smash the Suns under and the Wizards over, will I be a hero or fool?
I also.
Or both.
Well, the Suns over is going to be like 54. That's free.
Exactly.
Money. It's free money unless you bet on my bookie, where they won't honor your bet when you win. They'll just say, oh, it's a display error. Yeah.
Here's your Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pay you in Dogecoin.
The Porzingis deal. Okay, John.
Okay.
The Porzingis deal, I still don't totally get for the Wizards. I mean, maybe they're going to flip Tyus Jones. Like, what if they flip Tyus Jones for a thing? Like, could they get
going to take their regular season juggernaut players they acquired and win a bunch of regular season games with them.
I could also apologize for when making fun of the Wizards for all their point guards on a podcast recently. I forgot they had Chris Paul. They don't anymore. But
yeah.
I mean, the Wizards should get something for breaking up their point guard trifecta of Monte Morris, Tyus Jones, and DeLon Wright. I mean, I could imagine the Mavericks trading like 2 second-round picks for like JaVale McGee for Monte Morris or something. I think that'd be a good move for the Mavericks. I can imagine the Bulls being interested in one of those point guards. Honestly, the Celtics, it still feels like they should have gotten Monte Morris. I don't know how the salary worked out. Seems like they could try to get Monte Morris or DeLon Wright, would help their squad. But the Wizards did not want to pay Porzingis and got basically Tyus Jones and the 35th pick. Did they actually use the 35th pick? Now this is where I have to actually find out NBA draft information, which is basically impossible for us the day after the draft. What are your now day removed thoughts of this 3-way deal? And then, of course, you can, if you want to talk more about the Grizzlies' involvement, by all means, please do.
I think the Celtics basically swindled everyone.
Well, Celtics fans are very split.
Yeah, it's just what happens when you have a guy in town for 9 years that was beloved, but that's just very good business to get, future pay. Although it appears the Celtics aren't interested in drafting anyone in the first round as of late, but as they dealt Marcus Sasser and didn't really do. And then the guy they took from I'm a big Vols fan. There was a guy who didn't even start for us and didn't seem good. So I'm not really sure.
I think they ended up with Jordan Walsh.
What? I thought that was the Kings.
The Julian Phillips guy ends up on the Bulls. Man, I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure they finished with Jordan. So they had the 25th pick. They swapped it. It's kind of funny how the Celtics turned this 25th pick from.
I'm glad that you're bringing
definitely
this up
Google
now because I was
Jordan Walsh Celtics and confirm. But
going to find out. I was going to praise whomever took Jordan Walsh.
No, the Celtics got the 25th pick. Then they traded it for the 31st pick and a future second, and they eventually turned the 25th pick into, I believe, Jordan Walsh and 5 second-round picks, 5 future second-round picks. There's our 5 seconds again.
What is happening?
Yeah, so the Celtics have Jordan Walsh. That is confirmed.
Well, the Celtics are, by getting rid of Marcus Smart and swindling my own team, are now probably my third favorite team in the entire NBA. I like all of the Celtics players again.
I mean, I am curious how like the Porzingis fit's going to happen. And speaking of oft injured and a guy who balled out basically in a semi-contract year,
it looks to me like they just want to shoot threes, and that's perfect. Let Porzingis just step out and shoot threes. He, if he's standing by the 3-point line, he can't get bullied anyways.
You know who doesn't want to shoot threes, apparently, is the Dallas Mavericks.
Wow.
Dallas Mavericks went hard on centers. And now I do like the Dallas Mavericks process.
That guy that they took was supposed to be good at shooting threes and then never shot threes.
Yeah, I think I heard John Hollinger say he hits them in practice, but he never takes them in a game. I mean, I do like, all right, so we don't know much about the prospects, and I guess we could hit the top prospects at some point, but I leave it to us to focus on the weird details. But I like the fact if Derek Lively is just the guy they wanted, they flat out, they thought he was the best prospect. And so then they swapped out, they were able to unload the Davis Bertans contract to the Thunder. And in exchange, they moved down 2 spots to 12. They also picked up the 24th pick from the Kings because the Kings wanted to unload salary. So by moving down 2 spots, the Mavericks picked up the extra first-round pick, the 24th pick, where they took Omax Prosper. They also picked up Rashawn Holmes for free, and they got their guy they wanted, Derek Lively, at 12. But that's 2 centers who don't shoot at all. They already have JaVale McGee on the team. They have Maxi Kleber, who is a shooter. They used to have Dwight Powell, poor guy. What a horrific draft night for Dwight Powell to be watching the TV, being like, wait a minute.
He had a worse night than Cam Whitmore.
Yeah, wait a minute, guys. Cam Whitmore. We can keep bouncing around. What's the Ken Whitmore so slips down to 20. The Rockets take him. The Rockets now have like a unbelievable summer league team if they want to play all their guys. Cam Whitmore, who had apparently medical questions, is why he slipped so much. Most mock drafts had him in the top 10. Many of them had him like top 6. He ends up on the Rockets, and apparently he doesn't pass the ball at all. They already have Jalen Green not known for sharing the basketball. Like we saw Jabari Smith unable to get shots this year. They do take Amen Thompson, which seems like maybe a perfect fit for what they need. Here's my main question. By drafting Cam Whitmore, a scoring small forward, did Dylan Brooks's possible landing spot dry up? I don't think you want to play Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, and Cam Whitmore.
Yeah. I think so. I mean, how are you going to fit in? You can't fit in the bear poker, and you have this many young guys that have to get minutes, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
apparently,
Dylan's got to go somewhere where he gets as max minutes, right?
I mean, I would think so, but
that's going to be what
everyone's talking about him going to this
selection.
team, and now it's another thing I have to check like the roster spots because initial reports before the draft where the Rockets wanted to move out of their 20th pick, they wanted to trade out. But then when Whitmore kept sliding, you had Jake Fisher announcing they're trying to get to 17, 18, 19 to move up, and they ended up with the guy that reports were they were considering at 4, but you can't take that with a grain of salt. No one believes that. But yeah, that's another interesting angle. Another part of that Mavs deal with the Kings and them trading away their first round pick to clear space is they've opened salary cap space. Like the Kings, who had an excellent
pick up a guy
season. Like, I mean, they could sign Dylan, not that they probably would, but what do you think the Kings are up to? What are they building in there?
It's hard to tell. But what's beautiful about it is like they have all this flexibility and they still have the team that took, the Dubs to 7 and had their first playoff appearance in a bajillion years. So like you have an opportunity if something goes. The thing that I hate about so many teams is you'll think that they're all perfectly constructed and ready to make a run, and everyone's one injury away from something just derailing their season. And the Kings now have the flexibility to withstand something like that, I feel like.
So with their salary cap space, I'm gonna throw some free agent names at you and ask me if this is or maybe are we getting warm here? What could Vivek be cooking up? First thought. Throw in the bag at Draymond Green.
Wow. Bringing the Stomp brothers together. Stompanados.
Dude, Draymond Green. Like, all right, Sabonis, incredible regular season. Did not look like a 16-game player when he got to the playoffs. Looked like maybe, all right, this doesn't translate. But if you have to pick a front court pairing, I know the shooting's not ideal. I feel like Draymond is I feel like the Draymond Sabonis front court is kind of sexy. And I can see that being a thing where maybe the Warriors, by trading Jordan Poole, they have a more movable salary now in Chris Paul. They might be cutting costs, but would the Warriors match or be like, hey, Draymond's been like, they're offering me a full max contract, which maybe they could do. I'm not sure if they could, but like they're offering me this 5-year or 4-year deal, $140 million. Are the Warriors going to pay that? I feel like that's something I could see the Kings as part of their strategy.
So I can't move past the brilliance of having the guy who stomped a mud hole and Domantas Sabonis joining the team.
Well,
so you had stuck there.
You already had Chris Paul join the Warriors, and the Warriors apparently hate Chris Paul. And they were like trash talking him so hard. Like Steph Curry being like, this ain't 2014 trash talk. And Brian Windhorst was saying on draft night that apparently there was a thing not long ago where the Warriors like had a locker room chant that was F Chris Paul.
Yeah.
That's amazing. What a reunion.
I mean, it's just, and also it's such a good fit because, they could use more passing.
Yeah.
Could use more. They run through Sabonis and, that's not always going to work. I'm pretty loath to throw out Sabonis's playoff bona fides over a series in his entire career. That seems fairly foolish, but that seems like a perfect type of player to add to a team that's so young.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
So mind-bogglingly young and so fun. And as much as I despise Draymond, he is a fun player to watch, especially on offense, and would immediately upgrade their defense to a, we're talking about 10% upgrade just via one player. Those guys would definitely be wide open. Imagine the type of plays De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, and Draymond Green could combine for.
What if, here's another name,
with two shooters in the corners.
What if they make a huge offer for one of the Bucks free agents? What about a huge offer for Chris Middleton?
Oh,
I mean, Chris, like maybe would they move on from Harrison Barnes? Like, could you have Keegan Murray and Chris Middleton and Harrison Barnes?
Harrison Barnes was like strangely important.
I think Harrison Barnes is a good player. I think he's the type of guy every NBA team wants to have.
And am I crazy? Was he like the oldest guy on the team? Like, or is that just his insane beards that he grows?
That's probably true.
But he's like seems like an important piece. But Chris Middleton would be such an immediately impactful upgrade.
Could you pair Sabonis and Brook Lopez? What if they did a big overpay for Brook Lopez? I don't love this fit, but I'm thinking about it.
That's where I feel like Domantas is kind of unicorn, but not in the most positive sense. His unique game might really hold a move like that against them. I mean, I know Brook can just sit outside and hoist threes, but I don't think you want that type of Twin Towers thing when you have one of the faster, younger teams in the league. I feel like that's antithetical to what they do.
What if they make a full max offer for Cam Johnson? Full 25%.
I mean, Cam Johnson would be a perfect fit.
Amazing. Be so good.
I mean, I know we made fun of the Kings for how they went out, but they got there and they're so young. I think it's pretty ridiculous to poo-poo what the Kings are doing. This is one of the teams I'm looking forward to. I was looking forward to them way more when I thought Jordan Walsh was on the Kings as opposed to the Celtics.
I mean, we know none of the second round picks actually matter. Even though it's kind
Jordan
of
Walsh
fun.
Is my guy. He's got alopecia. Charlie Nueve Villanueva.
Well, I was like super excited about the Andre Jackson guy where I'm like, the Bucks making win now draft moves. Love it. You got Andre Jackson. You got
Gigi Allen or whatever, the 17-year-old.
Gigi Jackson's who the Grizzlies got. Yeah. They also the Bucks got Drew Timme. That dude would have played 15 years if he was drafted in 1984.
The Blazers should have just taken him and signed him to another NIL deal to sell pot in the Pacific Northwest.
Let's talk about Chris Paul. What do you think Chris Paul's impact on the Warriors might be? Then we'll take a break and talk about the big name draft guys. What do you think about the Warriors getting Chris Paul?
I like the move a lot. Okay. I know that last year we thought he kind of fell off, but I think Chris Paul kind of wears out his welcome places relatively fast. It might be just what the doctor ordered.
Well, can I say a note about that, John? He's now Chris Paul's been traded now 6 times, which is the most times any player who's made all NBA multiple times has ever been traded. So,
I mean, I just
congratulations.
Think Chris Paul comes in, galvanizes the team. His stuff wears off like a stern militaristic coach, You bring in his stuff wears off, but I think this could be really good for. I mean, who would you rather have in a playoff series, Chris Paul or Jordan Poole? And your window's tight.
The Warriors don't really run Chris Paul stuff. Like they don't really. I do feel like it makes more sense. I think Jordan Poole's kind of garbage, but
they also have long stretches of time during playoff games where they do nothing but turn the ball over. And if you want to tighten their ass up real fast, put in one of the best point guards ever.
Yeah. I mean, also, we're contractually obligated. I think every person who covers the basketball is obligated to mention the nut shot potential.
Oh my God.
Of Draymond and Chris Paul lineups. Like if Draymond Green punched Jordan Poole,
Nick Batum available?
Like Well, I mean, can we bet on Draymond Green punching Chris Paul this year? I mean, also it's a brilliant thing. You talk about the makeup between the getting stomped on the Draymond and Sabonis. What about the makeup of the Steve Kerr, Chris Paul, like fake laugh, the famous little video clip of man, a lot of fences being mended. Beautiful thing to see.
Man, basketball beef is so brief.
That's a great shirt.
So brief.
Spitting bars, John. Yeah, I mean, I like the deal in the fact that it makes the Warriors even more hateable. So that's a win for me personally.
I can't imagine hating a team more than I hate the current makeup of the Warriors.
Yeah. I do think
true villains.
You would think Chris Paul can figure it out because, like, there's the one stat. I know that there's this Twitter account, NBA Crazy Stats, that always has some pretty solid stats. Reminded me of this one. Every team Chris Paul has ever joined improved their record. Ever in his entire career. Every team.
I'm not going to be the guy who says adding Chris Paul is bad. I'm just
every team he's ever left has had a worse record. Their winning percentage has gone down. Yeah. Now the true question is, what do you do with the Wizards? Do the Wizards count? They can't both. Are they going to have the exact same record? So I don't know.
That was more like, when you're flying somewhere and you have a layover. It was just a layover.
Yeah, it was a layover. Those don't actually count on the.
I hope he did go though. I hope he packed this stuff and went, and then got there and was like, "Oh, Charlie Brown music."
It would be amazing if to complete a trade, the player had to physically be in the town. That would be that would make the NBA very exciting. That'd make the great Luke Ridnour swap of whatever year that was way more entertaining. Anyways, let's take a quick break for a word from the sponsor, the Memphis Grizzlies, who had a very conventional draft night. John, they didn't trade up.
No.
They traded their first round pick for a veteran. They took a guy in the second round for their two-way contract and then took a long shot draft stash just for future currency. And they have an open roster spot and might actually sign a veteran NBA player, something they never do. So a very conventional Grizzlies draft night. But if you're interested in what the Grizzlies are putting down, hey, get some season tickets. Go ahead and get your deposit down for those 2023, 2024 Grizzlies season tickets. Season tickets are the best way to guarantee your seats to the biggest matchups at the lowest prices all season long. If you don't live in Memphis, move to Memphis. Get season tickets by calling 901-888-HOOP or clicking grizzlies.com/season tickets. All right, John, we haven't once said Victor Wembanyama in this show. I don't believe we said Scoot Henderson. I don't believe we've said Brandon Miller. What are your thoughts on the top of the draft? Seems like an obvious home run for the Spurs. I mean, but also got my one guy I wanted, Leonard Miller. Although they traded him to the Timberwolves. Never mind. Couch that thought. The Scoot Brandon Miller thing is super interesting. What did you think of the Hornets? Was it smoke screens? Was it
I think it was a sham Sarania Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
He should be prosecuted for.
Like outright fraud.
Yeah. Who benefits here? So I need to know. I need an NBA deep throat to get to the bottom of this.
So Shams
Charania, where Mark Stein comes back into the picture to expose Shams Charania
is employed by FanDuel.
Yeah. Yeah.
He tweets out on Thursday afternoon when the odds are favoring Scoot Henderson to go second. Mm-hmm. He tweets out, it looks like the Hornets are going to lean. No. The odds are favoring. It's basically even. I think the odds are favoring taking Scoot Henderson. He tweets out, oh yeah, it now looks like Scoot Henderson is going to. This causes.
He took money out of the mouths of our Patreon only slackers. We had multiple slackers fall for this ruse.
He causes the betting lines to swing wildly. Where now it's like, oh, Scoot is minus 300 or minus 400 to go second. So everyone's running to FanDuel or whatever the preferred casino is, placing bets on Scoot to go 2 because this FanDuel employee just said, as a newsbreaker, the Hornets have basically decided to take Scoot. Then they draft Brandon Miller, and everyone loses money. FanDuel makes a killing because their employee, who's a newsbreaker, told people, oh, my sources are saying they're actually going to take Scoot, when no, they took Brandon Miller. And then Woj comes over the top.
Yeah.
With the alley-oop dunk saying the Hornets were always in on Brandon Miller the entire draft process. I don't know who to believe, but I do know it feels like fraud.
Brandon is made of Teflon, man. No one can take Brandon down. Not the justice system, not Scoot.
Also, Mitch Kupchak seemed
unprepared. Does this make Shams an accomplice to an accomplice?
I don't know. I do know Mitch Kupchak seems like he had not prepped for the very obvious question of how is your franchise comfortable by taking Brandon Miller with the off the court.
I didn't see it. What did he say?
He said nothing. Hemmed, hawed, stammered, and said, well, he's pretty young. And then he said, well, maybe I shouldn't go down that road. It's like,
you know what that says to me? That says to me that Michael Jordan got one last pick.
Yeah. Sir, were you not aware that your team was about to draft a guy who accidentally helped with a murder? I don't know, man.
Builds character. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Or what kills your friend's girlfriend makes you stronger. Isn't that the old adage? What is it?
I don't let like that. That's the thing, right? I don't know how you're supposed to move past like best case scenario, accidentally assisted a murder. Like that's the story we're running with.
I what's scary is I just honestly, don't. I just think there's a lot. If you start getting into the character issues with players, I think that you're going to end up taking a lot. You're going to miss out on a lot of good players.
When Alabama's basketball coach was like, I reached out to Ray Lewis to figure out what happened in the aftermath of the murder he was very close to, where Ray Lewis's suit from that evening disappeared and has never been seen again, was burned in a trash barrel somewhere in Atlanta. Like
Alabama's coach could do a million weird things like that, and it still wouldn't be as controversial and or troubling as how he blacks out the area between the free throw, between layups and the 3-point line in practice, and that's the only places you're allowed to shoot from.
Still
more bizarre.
So because of the Hornets taking Brandon Miller, and also going to pair him with Miles Bridges in this upcoming season.
Woo! Bad Boys Pistons, look out.
Then the Blazers ended up with Scoot Henderson, who has been the number 2 prospect basically for forever. And this led to the most like annoying thing ever. This has become my least favorite NBA story by far.
Okay.
It's just talking about Damian Lillard. And Damian Lillard's I know I'm now feeding the fuel. I'm leaning into it. I'm causing more of it to happen. Chris Haynes being like, well, we haven't talked to Damian Lillard yet. Also, like, Damian Lillard really wants an all-in move, to compete. And it's like,
does it get more all-in than taking the best player available?
They took the best player. What's he mad about? Like, it's the dumbest conversation. And we're talking about Damian Lillard like he's an all-time great. He's not Charles Barkley. All right. He's not even Chris Paul. I mean, he's good. Okay. He's a good player. I want Mike Conley to start releasing these statements. Like, listen, if the Timberwolves don't go all in, no.
I hate to say it, Blazers fans, he's not even Clyde Drexler. He has not carried his team to the finals. He's not. He's one of my favorite players. But yeah, I'm inclined to agree. He's the type of player who gets traded to a contender at the end of his career to chase a ring. He's not the type of player that you build an entire team around late in his career to try and win a championship.
We've seen Damian Lillard on pretty solid squads, and they're pretty good. We've seen him on like average supporting cast teams. They're not that good. They're mediocre. They're like 40-ish win teams. And now we've seen the last couple of years where, like, when he plays, and they have Jeremy Grant, and they used to have a useful Yusuf Nurkic. They have guys, like, they're not totally bereft of NBA talent. And if Damian Lillard plays, they're like headed towards low play-in. If you're a low play-in guy, if you're the all-star leading a low play-in tier team, the idea of like, hey guys, we got to go all in. You can't go all in from that point. That's like having queen 9 pre-flop and being like, guys, we got to go all in. It's like, no, you get a good hand, then you go all in. Dame win 55 games, then go all like.
The Blazers have tried to kind of play it both ways with their moves. They've made trades that seemed like they were going one direction and then doubled back, and they're retracing their steps, trying to fool us like Jack Torrance in The Shining at the end. Like, this doesn't make any sense.
Well, like, what's an all-in move? Like, oh, you want to bring
what the Blazers are doing makes no sense.
Dame wants to bring in help now. Like, oh, they could. What if they trade? What if they traded future first-round picks to bring in like C.J. McCollum, Josh Hart, and Larry Nance Jr.?
Right. So
well, you had that team already. Like, I don't understand. What are you getting for?
And then you traded Josh
Hart. Like, Dame wants to trade
who was an important part of a playoff team.
Yeah. Dame wants to trade the third pick. He wants to trade Scoot Henderson for 33-year-old Paul George to like what, losing the first round?
Or for Zion. At this point, do you know that Zion's going to be better than Scoot? Like, there's as many questions there.
Dude, let's just say Zion Williamson is healthy.
Yeah.
Let's say you get healthy Zion Williamson. Dame and Zion Williamson, are you able to keep Jeremy Grant at that point? Okay, let's say you keep Jeremy Grant. Dame, Anthony Simons, let's forget salary matching. Dame, Anthony Simons, Jeremy Grant, Zion Williamson, and Drew Eubanks, or any old big five. That team is not probably making the conference finals. They might win in the first round.
I will say that Dame may be the victim of having some very weird GMs over the years.
Who among us can't say that?
Right. But I mean, you know, sometimes you're in a situation that behooves success and sometimes you aren't. But at this point, it's too late. It's too late.
What if Blake Griffin?
He's going to go be a part of something else. It's not going to be built around him at this point.
Right. It seems like
he had one of his best seasons ever last year. Was, to me, all NBA level player.
He was amazing last year.
Yeah.
And even when he's amazing, it's like, well, you weren't that good. So it does feel like, I mean, if you want to stay with the same team the whole time, fine. But like, just, I need the squeaky wheel, man. You got to stop the squeaky wheel stuff. Just like, what if Blake Griffin was like, man, you know what? If we're not going all, like 5 years ago, we're not going all in.
I think we kind of lived through this with Blake Griffin. And then he ended up as a 12th guy on the Celtics.
I mean, didn't Blake Griffin had a higher MVP finish in his career than Dame Lillard, right?
Third once, right?
Something like that. I love what the Pistons did. I love they have, again, I'm reading from Draft Guys because I don't honestly know that much even about Cade Cunningham yet. But like Cade Cunningham, but then like the athleticism of Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, and Asar Thompson.
Yeah, buddy.
Everyone tells me like that's must-see
Marcus
TV.
Sasser was a big gamer.
Marcus Sasser, like
I know a lot of people say he's not athletic enough but yeah, it's the Pistons are a lot of fun. It so much hinges on Cade's health that I'm like loath to consider anything, but definitely a ton of fun.
What are some other parts of this draft that maybe you want to hit? We haven't really gone through much of the lottery.
My favorite parts of the draft actually occurred before the draft, and it was reading some of Kevin O'Connor's draft poetry.
Oh, what's this?
I just want to cite a few. Much was made about Grady Dick's like ice skating routine outfit, but I think there's something bigger at work here.
Okay.
Here's from Kevin O'Connor's draft preview, and I quote: "His shooting pocket, think cargo shorts, fast, accommodating, down for whatever." Kind of upsetting in a weird way. And then let's go forward to another player of the Caucasian persuasion, or close enough. Jaime, I think, was it the Heat got Jaime Jaquez Jr.?
Yeah, they did.
According to Kevin O'Connor, he can change rhythms like a Tool song, and he uses fakes and pivots to get defenders flying off the floor.
That doesn't make any sense.
Polyrhythmic.
Does he mean meter? He changes meters like a Tool song. How do you change a rhythm, John? A rhythm is I know this is music theory talk now. I believe Kevin OConnor means change meter like a Tool song. I don't know how can a basketball player change meter? Can you go from a 2-step to a 3-step? Yeah.
I think that's a travel actually.
Rhythm
that's
like
a travel.
Tool. That is nonsensical sentence. I love it. Good job, Kevin OConnor.
I mean, you got to give it to him. The guy was doing work, and he was updating these as he was giving out grades as the names were being announced. Great job by Kevin. I'm all in on the Ringer mock draft from the presentation all the way through the iambic pentameter of one Kevin OConnor. Give it to me. But my favorite picks, honestly, I think it's hard to beat the Twins going back to back is something that we'll probably remember forever. And then I guess I'm going to remember this draft mostly for what didn't happen because I was so ready for big time trades to happen, and they all kind of happened before the draft started.
Right. Yeah. The only players moved basically draft week. You have the huge, Bradley Beal trade, of course, then Chris Paul going to the Warriors right before the draft. And then there's the 3-team Wizards, Celtics, Grizzlies deal. And then on draft night proper, Rashawn Holmes, I think basically the only NBA guy on the move. So that was a big letdown for me. And I do again, as someone who doesn't know the draft prospects very well and just has to absorb what other people tell me, a lot of the first round was sort of chalk, and especially the lottery where it was all reasonable stuff. I think maybe most notable, Bilal Coulibaly ended up going even higher maybe than people thought. And as the Wizards trade up to get him, Jarris Walker is who the Pacers maybe wanted all along. I thought the Pacers did some nice stuff, moves at the edges. That they picked up a future pick from the Nuggets during draft week. Because they had too many late first rounds, early second picks. They picked up 2 second rounders to move back one spot. Here's my question. Maybe you know this because you watch a little SEC basketball. Anthony Black, don't know anything about him, but his appearance on draft night, why is he not just this generation's Elfrid Payton?
I mean, as a Magic fan, I would be having some serious deja vu. Can you live through to Elfrid Payton's? All I remember about Anthony Black is that he was their point guard who couldn't really pass or shoot. So that's one of those. As much as I love Jordan Walsh, did 4 Razorbacks go in the top 2 rounds? Did that happen? At least 3
I believe 3 Razorbacks got taken, and it was the first time since Corliss Williamson and Scotty Thurman.
Incredible. That's not the order I would have had them in, but someone must see something in him. There were a lot of players who like the guy who got taken off the Vols, didn't play really, was bad.
Yeah.
There was a lot of players where it's like, this has to do with athleticism and things I don't understand.
Well, with even with the Cam Whitmore slide, where I just had read all these things like, oh, they have a mocked going 5th to the Pistons. And then so everyone's like, what's going on with Cam Whitmore? And then I'm like, wait, he averaged 12 points per game in college and he's a scorer?
Can we talk about how we talk about players sliding very briefly? Because this came up in our playback that we did.
Yeah.
People they're like, oh, the Lakers are going to get this guy who slid. Why does this always happen to us? Why do the Lakers benefit when this happens? Those guys who slide almost always are bad.
Yeah.
So you should be happy when those players slide. That's a victory. That's a team that can't talk themselves out of somebody else's mock draft, not trusting their own picks. That's fine. It's all good. And Cam Whitmore, that's one of those guys. It's like one of the Ed O'Bannon things where it's like, that guy's just a chucker. He's just a ball hog. It's a perfect slide guy.
Like a Cam Thomas. Is he like a Cam Thomas?
Just not. He shouldn't have been 5th. He shouldn't have been there. Never made sense.
The Jazz, I think, maybe played it straight by the book. They used all 3 of their first round picks. They got the Taylor Hendricks guy from UCF, shot blocking, floor spacer. They took Keontae George, who was mocked for late lottery, basically. And then they took Bryce Sensabaugh at 28. Seems like they're just That feels like, to borrow the modern parlance, 3 bites of the apple. I'm just, maybe one of these guys will pan out. Grady Dick, who you already mentioned, goes to the Raptors. That seemed like a clear fit with the shooting. Everyone kind of mocked in Brandon Podziemski to the Warriors. The Warriors took like maybe the best college player available at 57. But again, as we know, ready to play NBA guys are never ready to play and never actually.
Is it bad that I
much.
was just kind of relieved that the Grizzlies didn't have any meaningful picks and I didn't have to worry about the David Roddy, Jake LaRavia type experience?
No, that's like, what we all talked about. I know you were upset about the future first pick being traded, but it wasn't a future first. It was the rights to Marcus Sasser.
And then some of it is like, I'm not really upset, but I'm like having to process my emotions of getting my least favorite player. So I'm like looking for what's the opposite of a silver lining? I'm looking for a touch of gray, I'm looking for something bad to say just so that I can,
like my beard, a hint of white.
Sure. Right.
Yeah.
I guess
more
can't
than a
be
hint,
happy
boys and
right
girls.
now. So I've got to find a pebble in my shoe.
Well, you're saying as far as
I understand why you pause there. Anytime someone uses septuagenarian aphorisms, it's very unsettling.
Well, I thought you had more to say about what you were.
Never.
Okay, but you're saying you had a hard time just for the acquisition cost when you consider the full history of what the Grizzlies have done the past few seasons. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, the last few years have been torturous.
Yeah,
like I'm never gonna forget giving up Kyle Anderson and DeAnthony Melton so that we could draft 2 bums. I'm never going to forget it.
You got to be patient.
I don't.
I'm being devil's advocate. I also devastated.
Yeah.
Where I was like, well, if we just ran the team back from 2 years ago, they would have been amazing last year.
I'm still kind of haunted by like this whole like notion that we were trying to get Giddey and ended up with Zaire. Like, I'm not going to be okay for a while.
Yeah.
It's okay. That's why we have therapy.
Right. Well, that's my analysis that I got into on Grits and Grinds, where it's like
big gulps.
If I don't think about what got us to this point, I like the move.
Yeah.
But when it's like, well, like we chose Dylan Brooks and Dylan Brooks walks for nothing. And we chose whoever over Kyle Anderson. Like we got rid of Dylan and Kyle and DeAnthony and Tyus and used a lot of picks to bring in Jake LaRavia, David Roddy, and Marcus Smart. That feels like a sideways move. Well, it's not that exciting. But then if I woke up today not knowing what happened the past few years, and I'm like, oh yeah, we traded some late first round picks for Marcus Smart. That seems awesome. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Anyways, let's I guess we can parfait away this. We can get out of this, close it down. Any final thoughts on the draft? Any sleepers you loved? Any teams that you thought came out ahead? Anything you're looking forward to? Any things that where you could do like a cream of wheat that bugged you? What do you want to wrap up the show with?
Well, it's not really I just think that the Brandon Miller selection, the hatred's gone too far, and I'll be interested in his rookie of the year odds.
Oh,
I just think this is a guy who would have been a number 1 overall pick in many years that we recently went through.
Okay.
He was a really prototypical modern NBA player.
Yeah.
It's exactly what you want. And he's saddled up next to one of the best prospects of all time. And is somehow found wanting because he's being saddled next to the best prospect of all time. And then the fact that Scoot Henderson's a really good prospect too. I don't understand any shade that isn't related to him maybe having something to do with killing someone.
Right.
That shade seems appropriate.
Right.
But any other shade, Brandon Williams was a really excellent player and even still played pretty well until there were a dark cloud, maybe of his own making, hanging over his life. I mean, if I hear one more person bring up his performance after murder charges, I don't really know what to say to you.
Well,
it's very normal.
Technically, everything after
rest
of his life is going to be after.
Now he's scot-free.
Well, what are the what does this mean for the Hornets with we got Kelly Oubre gone, I guess. Gordon Hayward, expiring deal. PJ Washington, restricted free agent.
Not great.
He might fit on the Kings if he tried to play defense a little harder, maybe. I
think the Thunder nailed it again, by the way. And
I really like that Casey Wallace guy.
Here we go again. Yeah, he's just a bad man. And I think the Heat picked up a perfect player too.
You just like that Jacques?
I like his sister a lot. I like what the Nets did. I mean, I'm gonna like all these college players. You brought up the Pacers. I don't understand the Pacers draft picks anymore.
Just Jarris Walker. Who else did they swing for?
They took the Belmont guy, and
they took Belmont guy in the first round.
I know you love Ben Mathurin, but that's another guy who I feel like you're taking these guys who are good college players, but I think end up being pretty middling pros.
Well, Ben Mathurin seemed to me incredible for the first half of the season, and then it definitely chilled.
Yeah, I never got to see any good Ben Mathurin games, and every time I would tune in, which admittedly was not much, it was always like, this guy would not be playing for most teams. Like, this is hard to watch. But I hate to say it, Danny Ainge, I think, crushed it again.
Yeah, that's what I said. I just like that they drafted 3, seemed like pretty high prospect, maybe even low floor guys.
Yeah,
seems possible one of those guys could work out for him.
For my worst, I would probably say I was very, very confused by what the Mavs did. Like, I don't understand.
I think the process is fine, and I think picking up Rashawn Holmes for free, if that guy can regain his form seems like a good fit as a big man alongside Luka and Kyrie. Picked up an extra pick, Omax Prosper. That seems fine. I guess I'll say one worse thing. The draft was 5 hours long, and I'm confused about the math. 5 minutes for every pick in the first round. That's 2.5 hours. 2 minutes for every pick in the second round. That's less than an hour because there was only 28 picks. That equals under 3.5 hours. Where did this extra 90 minutes come from? That was a very slow draft. Also, I'll say, John, maybe I'll tease this for next week's episode. Unrelated to basketball. I had some adventures at McKay's chasing down loose Legos. Here's teasers.
Have you been banned from the store?
Haven't been banned. I struck up conversation with employees.
That's what you do.
So I struck up an employee.
You need an inside man.
First of all, I went on back-to-back days because my wife's out of town. I texted her the second day. I'm like, I'm back at the Lego place, and I might need an intervention. I might need help to make me stop. But both days I was there during bin refill time, where they came in and dumped it in, and I was like, oh my God. That's so much stuff. Oh, then one day I was there. I saw my future. There was like old Looper Keith at the Lego bin.
See, working at McKay's.
There were guys who were way further down the rabbit hole than I'd gone yet.
I'm just ready for you to get the job.
There were guys there.
Your own inside man.
That's a good idea. There was a guy there who had a 20-page printout of parts.
Woo!
He was crossing them off.
Gonna build a submersible.
Yeah. Lego might have been a better idea. Anyways, that's the show for our draft wrap up. If you want to support our program, do that at patreon.com/Fastbreak Breakfast. We will launch our draft and free agency game. I mean, our free agency and trade game pretty soon, because that, of course, is right around the corner. We're going to see, what do the Kings spend their money on? What do the Rockets spend their money on? What do the Grizzlies spend their MLE on? What happens with Kyrie? What happens with some of these movable pieces on the Lakers? A lot of interesting stuff. What happens with the most deserving NBA All-Star that needs a title, Damian Lillard?
Does Zach Kleiman saying that we're mostly finished with large moves take Bruce Brown off the table, since he probably played his way into quite a large contract?
I'm dying that people are like, the Grizzlies probably can't use their MLE because they could be a second apron team. And it's because we paid John Conchar, the world's most undeserved extension, which kicks in the following season.
The 13th man. John Conchar.
Anytime you can lock down the 12th guy, you got to do it. Support our show, patreon.com/Fastbreak Breakfast. Subscribe to the YouTube channels. Follow John, Master John Burr on Twitter. Follow me at Fastbreak Break. You guys are the best. Thanks for listening. And remember, breakfast is the most important thing